Thank you, Athena. Thank you very much. Vaughn, thoughts and prayers, mate. I hope you get better soon. And he's with us today, even in spirit. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know you had a choice that you could make of which talk, and you all made the right one. So congratulations. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to go through the digital experience playbook. It is with the work that we've been doing at Drumline alongside CSU. If you find anyone from CSU who might be wandering around the event later, right here, you can ask some questions about this as well. First of all, as Athena already covered, if you want to ask any questions, here's that QR code. If you drop them in along the way, I'll be able to see them come in, and we can address them as we go or all at the end. Also, this is not a presentation. This is a Miro board. It's one that's going to be shared with you immediately at the end of today. So get your phones out ready for that. Also, I hope no one gets motion sickness from as we jump around this as well. Just hands up if you need to leave, and we'll slow it down. Let's start with, what is digital experience? We all know, because we're all here today to talk about it. Digital experience is obviously the metaverse. It's where we do our life. It's where we do business. We're there all the time wearing our headsets. Or maybe it's actually our NFT, Bored Ape collection. Our wallets are definitely not gathering dust with the 90% decline in NFTs that we've seen in price. Or maybe it's not that at all. It's actually the infinite scroll of AI video that we get in the Sora 2 app, although that recently got taken off the App Store. So maybe digital experience isn't really any of these things. In fact, one of the things that we do think digital experience is oversold. We get told a lot that there's a panacea, there's a piece of kit, there's a new way of working that's going to transform our digital experience. And we're here today to share with you some methods and practical ways that we have not bought into the hype train, but we've still been able to see good results. So instead of walking you through a case study, we're going to do that, but in reverse. We're going to first say, this is what we got. We're going to show you the experiences that we built and delivered. And then we're going to show you how we got there. This is an open book for our actual methodology that is consistent over time in terms of how we create better experiences. We'll share with you the problem, and then we'll reintroduce ourselves. So what is digital experience? For us, digital experience is really simple. It's insight and consistency in delivery. Let's start with impact. This last year, we've delivered 2 experiences on the Charles Sturt University website that have generated $2.5 million in profit. Now, those 2 experiences come from students. Just a reminder, everybody, Charles Sturt University, it's a university. We're recruiting students to come study with us. This is really relevant because coming to choose to study at any university is a 3-year time commitment, as well as many, many thousands of dollars in investment. It's a big decision. And so we've been able to convince a lot more students to come and study at CSU. How do we get them there? Well, I'm going to show you the experiences straight away. Here's the first one. I'd like you to spot the differences. They look almost the same, right? There's a couple small things here. One is in the control, we have our basic copy, and in the variant, we've changed the copy here. It says cross the finish line. You're almost done, finish applying. And we changed the text in this CTA. That's it. That's all that we did. The magic of this experience is that this was not an A/B test. This was a personalized activity. It was dedicated only to students who had started an application and then left to do something else. These applications are really long. They take time. People are coming to the site multiple times. And so when they came back, we knew where they would be, and we gave them this unique experience. We saw a 25% improvement, which equated to $2 million in profit per year from just this one experience. But this is quite towards the pointy end of a student's journey as they're applying. The other experience we had was a lot more upper funnel. What's the difference here? Really obvious. We changed one thing. After 5 seconds, when somebody was on the site, we put in a pop-up here. What's unique about this pop-up is it doesn't say apply now. It doesn't say finish your enrollment. It doesn't say how to apply. It doesn't say anything like that. Instead, it says, do you want information about fees? Do you want to know the admission dates? It helps people find the right information. And this, just a guiding pop-up, saw $500K in profit and a 5% improvement to bottom line applications. Cool. We did 2 experiences. We probably just rolled the dice and got lucky. You run enough experiences, you deploy enough stuff, you're going to get lucky. How did we actually get here? Let's talk a bit about the how. And to set the scene, contextualize, we've been running tests to understand how our digital experience can be improved for a really long time. Charles Sturt University has been running A/B tests on their site since the mid-2010s, so 10 years or so now. We've been running tests for about the same amount of time and in partnership for the last 2 years. On that way, 60% of the tests that we run together don't do anything. This is the dirty secret that you guys probably know in your heart of hearts. Every time you do a release, it might do nothing. We know for sure, unfortunately, that 60% of the time it doesn't do anything. On the flip side, that means that 40% of our tests win. Now, this is actually more than 3 times the base rate of Optimizely's global study of people running experiments across the world. That's something that we're really proud of, and we're really happy with this win rate. It's incredible. But that wasn't what we were setting out to achieve. In fact, we should probably bring it down a little bit by making some bigger bets. It wasn't our goal, but it is the natural result from a systematic approach to digital experience that blends these 2 models of insight and consistent delivery. This is a snapshot of our process, by the way. We have insight creation leading to consistent delivery. For us, this is in A/B testing, personalization, new website experiences, but it equally works for almost any area of digital experience, in advertising, in one-to-one, in messaging, in app experience. Let's dive into some tools that we hope to impart on all of you that you can apply directly in these 2 main areas, in insight and in delivery. Let's dive in. And let's start with some understanding. Everybody in this room has access to oodles of data. In fact, the struggle for most of us is parsing it. And that's why we talked about AI agents to help summarize or simplify, MCP connectors to help get us access to stuff that's sitting over in a corner, or more plaintive requests via email to a team to give us access to data we don't have right now. Like, this happens all the time. For us, we mainly think about this in 3 categories. The first is reactive signals. This is the stuff that's happening around you that is often bombarding you that you have to parse and filter out. It's your weekly reports that get emailed to you. It's a customer feedback survey that gets circulated, or a Slack channel that's constantly being filled up with voice of customer comments, things like that. The second is active observation. This is the stuff we often think of as I'm doing data, right? I'm looking into data to find something meaningful and useful. This includes things like we're talking about in the digital experience realm, like session recordings, user flows, digital analytics, and heat maps, as well as everything sitting in your CRM or data warehouse. And the last one is direct inquiry. We go out and we talk to customers. This is what we classically put into our UX research category. So we've got all this data. It exists. Most of us have access to parts of this. My question to you is, with all this data, what are the barriers to creating insight? We're at the best part, more audience participation. So whip your phones out. I need your help. Please scan this QR code. We're going to get some live answers in here. We're going to populate them in our board. Jump in there, scan them up, and I will have this code available in a heartbeat as well. Here's my question to you. If you need the code again, it's just in the upper right-hand corner. What is the biggest barrier to you getting better insight? Is it access to the right data, because data's living in silos? Is it the available skills in your team? Is it capacity and resourcing in your team? Or is it that the findings that you do have are all separate and disconnected without a lot of focus? Ooh, capacity and resourcing. Look at this. This is like a race now. Jeez. A lot of capacity. Oh, we got small teams here, folks, battling for headcount. We see that. Findings are disconnected, access to the right data. Here's the good news. All of you are multi-skilled and super talented. I love that. We're in the right place. Who did that? I saw that. Thank you, everyone. This is really good data because we're going to come back and reflect on this in just a second. Thank you. Let's jump back to our insight because this is a really common way that people run into barriers when they're creating insight. Let me share with you some of the ways that people navigate that. We normally think about what you're using data for in 4 categories. The first one is we're looking for a problem. We want to find a problem. The second one is tell me about the where, the what, the how, and the why of a problem. This is what comes up every time someone's looking at a report and they go, how come that dip's gone down? Can you explain that to me? The answer's like, I don't know, man. It was raining. Like, who knows? The third one is we're trying to design or test new solutions. Is the thing we're designing going to work? And the last one is, can we say that the thing we delivered, we have on a surface, that it's working? Now, usually, the work of insight sits at this second stage. And people think that the only work of insight lives right here. And sometimes, when you're investigating something, you realize, oh, I found a new problem. It's time to investigate that. And we can create a nice virtuous little cycle. Other times, you're investigating something to point a finger at a design, at a prototype, or at something that's already gone live. The proposition that we want to give to you today is that most time is spent in that second stage, diving into a specific tactic or a problem, when you should be spending a lot more time diving into the problem itself. For us, this is the number one way that teams move fast and go nowhere. They have incredible insights, they have incredible deep dives, they're looking at specific tactics. How do I move this button up to a different place? How do I change this flow? It's not solving a problem. So, you need to solve a problem. Easy. How do you get there? You're being bombarded with information constantly. You're always getting overwhelmed. How do we get there? I want to introduce a very brief concept before we move to a very silly analogy. The brief concept is all these different data sources have different degrees of confidence. You put different weights in your own mind as to how much you trust them. When someone from accounting says, oh, I was trying to use the app the other day and it was totally broken. You built the app, you might go, maybe the problem's in front of the keyboard. But that's up here, right? If we want to trust data really rigorously, we probably want like a randomized controlled test. This is the most rigorous thing. We might have different weights for different types of customer feedback or UX research. The important thing is we want a diversity of information to bring this picture together into a cohesive whole. And as that information builds up, you're going to get more and more evidence on what you should do about a specific solution. And you weigh that up on how much you should invest to deploy that solution. And what we see a lot of time, I'm sure everyone can resonate with this, is that often we don't have a lot of evidence on a specific course of action. But we're still getting pulled into this quadrant over here, and we have to invest a lot to make it happen. So the big focus that I want to use then, as my silly analogy is, you should be filling dump trucks with evidence. That's right. It's a dump truck. So what this looks like in practice is you might hear a stakeholder observation. Someone says, oh, Stacy told me to check the users exiting if they forgot their password, since that came up a few years ago and it was a big issue then. You go, cool, I'm just going to pocket that. I'm going to pull my little dump truck along behind me because it's not really full of much. But then you see some customer feedback that says, I keep getting prompted to log in to deal with my query, but I can never get or do what I need, and I have to call anyway. Think, all right, maybe this is worth doing something about. So you take one more tiny step, and you see if you can fill up that dump truck with more evidence. So you dive into a heat map or a session recording, and you notice that users who are trying to do self-service are actually really getting stuck. And there's a lot of friction points that you didn't otherwise know about. This kind of idea of fill a dump truck to identify a problem is one that we have practically used with Charles Sturt University. And that starts for us back in the 2010s, a long time ago. We knew that our problem was students have a really long journey. The average buying cycle for a student, I mean, it's weird to talk about it like that when they're studying, but the average buying cycle is months at the shortest end of this scale to multiple years for international students coming over. We knew that they'd come to the site many, 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 many times. So how did we give them the right information when it's the right time for them? Well, we knew from surveys and customer voice that this was a big problem, but we couldn't really pin down the problem until 2024. We did some user research that showed that applications to higher education was not because of a seamless app experience. Everyone knows when you apply to uni, you've got to fill out a bunch of forms. Who cares? What was important was getting all the information they needed to make a decision about study to them. And that wasn't easy, because we also did another piece of research a year later. We still hadn't winnowed down on the problem, that said that research on course pages shows that information is both centralized on a course, on a degree, and decentralized. Students constantly have to jump onto a course page and then jump out to various parts of the site to find information that they need to make their decision. So, by applying lots of different evidence together, we got to not even close to a problem. We still had to do more work. And so, here's an example of some of the insight we created from Contentsquare, where we took screenshots of course pages. And you can see these are really long mobile screenshots. And on the left and the right, we color-coded all the different content that is being shown on these pages. And we compared segments of users at different stages in their buying journey and looked at the type of content they were consuming, when during the journey was that more engaged with, when was it less engaged with, and how could we build a picture of what content was early stage, what content was late stage, and where we could surface it. Then we finally felt like we had a problem that we could solve. And that was customers are visiting the site and course pages many times seeking study information. It's not clearly organized, and it's massively reducing the chance they apply. This is the problem that we used to turn around those two experiences that you saw right up front. On the left-hand side, one way of addressing this problem is knowing that people are searching for information. We can't solve everything straight away. They're going to come back to the site multiple times, and when they do, all we have to do is point and say, remember, you have an application you can complete. The other experience was knowing that people are going to be searching for this information across the whole site. If we give basic directions in a really easy-to-access way, it's going to massively simplify their information collection journey. So, what's the takeaway for you guys? How you get real insight. Access data that you don't actually use very much right now. If you have a customer contact center, go talk to reps there. Go get access to customer feedback. Have a look at it every few weeks, because this is often stuff that's sitting there but untapped in our work. The second and most important one is that think about building evidence around problems. We often get insight packs or decks or whatever else that says, like, we dived into checkout, we dived into product content, and this gets packaged and coordinated along those lines. It's not really linked to the problems users are experiencing. So right now, that's a job that you can do to get an edge. And problems are really persistent. Sometimes they need a huge dump truck to understand and actually unpack. That's insight. Let's talk about consistent delivery. The two things that we believe you need to attain consistent delivery are roadblocks and adaptability. Roadblocks. Okay. What are the roadblocks that you guys realistically hit? I'll give you some heads up. I'm going to share with you in just a second as well. This isn't a purely one-way information exchange. But I'd love to hear from you. What is stopping you from delivering more? Delivering more experiences, delivering more tests, delivering more in your digital team. We're back to QR codes, folks. I'll drop the QR code again up here. But if you go back to your screen that you just had, you should be able to see this question pop up. What's stopping you from more delivery? Is it your massive developer backlog that lasts 3 years? Is it your comprehensive approvals and compliance? Is it your archaic processes? The amount of stakeholders you need to get alignment from, or your capacity again? Oh, self-nominating archaic processes is probably my favorite thing today. So thank you, everyone who's willing to go out there. A lot of stakeholders get aligned. I feel like more late responses saying stakeholders is like exactly on note for that as well. But a really even spread. This is really cool. And honestly, I'm surprised because dev backlog is the #1 gripe that I think we all know about, and we just kind of say, look, it's a living. This is really interesting. Thank you, everyone. So good. We're going to come back to this again at the end. Let's jump back to consistency, and let me share what some of the roadblocks that CSU experiences in delivery. Just like you said, there's a massive dev backlog. It's huge. And there's a fight across everyone to get the thing that you want to get deployed to the top of that backlog. The second one is it's a university. We have faculties, we have lots of teams, we have lots of people. It's really hard to get everyone rowing in the same direction and aligned to what we're trying to do in digital experience. Also, we have a really small team at CSU. I'm putting my Vaughn hat on, by the way. I hope you can all notice that. We have a really small team. And it's really hard to battle for more resource right now, and so it's unlikely to see that change quickly. And the org structure that we have doesn't really lend itself well to operationalizing digital experience like we had always hoped. Now, these roadblocks we saw as intractable initially, but we picked the one that we had the most influence over. This one. We did this because we realized that the biggest barrier to people coming on the journey with us was probably something that we're really good at: education. And so because we're a uni, we thought, let's get into the thick of things and educate stakeholders on how we're thinking about digital experience. And that meant showcasing to them how testing works, showcasing to them how we look at solving problems in digital experience, and inviting them to be part of the process a lot more than they had been prior. Now, this is not an easy thing, and it has not been a long journey, and it is not solved. But the biggest thing that we've done to reduce our roadblocks is by really deeply engaging with stakeholders across CSU to say, this is how we're thinking about digital experience, and trying to bring them into our process as much as possible. Now, the roadblocks part is just important to know what is blocking you. You don't need roadblocks to deliver. You need to know what roadblocks you have to deliver, because the second part of consistent delivery is around adaptability. So how do you be adaptable? And to do so, I'm going to introduce another concept. Who's heard of the four-burner theory? Very milquetoast hands up, but I appreciate your input. Thank you. The four-burner theory says that you have a lot of goals throughout your life. Your life changes, and as that changes, you can turn up or turn down things like health, work, family, and friends as your focus. But you can't put them all on because you'll burn out. So, what are you going to turn up? What are you going to turn down? When are you going to make decisions around what you change focus on? And this is an analogy that works really well in a conceptual way for how we prioritize our lives, but it also works for how we prioritize our digital teams. This is how we think about this concept and how we think about adaptability for CSU to maintain consistent delivery. We have in our wheelhouse digital advertising, personalization, A/B testing, UX research, one-to-one comms, which we're not showing here as well. We have a lot of tools in our toolkit. And sometimes those tools are easy to use. We turn up the burner. Sometimes we're running into lots of barriers with stakeholders, with dead backlogs. We turn down the burner and turn up another one. One example of that is if we're running a lot of personalized experiences, we might be getting no actual wins. This is realistic. We've all hit it. We realize we've got to turn down this burner massively and turn up our research burner to make sure that we're actually targeting the right problems. Go back to our dump truck and fill it up a little bit more. One thing you'll notice about this analogy, though, is that at CSU, we're not really turning up our digital advertising burner. There's a few reasons for this. Number one, return on ad spend is not going in a positive direction. Everyone has felt the increase in CPCs over the years, and no one's getting like massively increased marketing budgets these days. So your ad budget is not going to double overnight and allow you to just throw more money at problems. The other trend that's happening is that the publishers like Google and Meta are making the life of people doing performance media easier by trying to say, give us your money and RAI will take care of it, we promise. Maybe it will. It still works, mostly, but that isn't a lever that we have good control over, and it's not really going to affect digital experience. Instead, that's more of just a tap that we turn on and turn off. We have to rely on other methods to deliver a better digital experience. Importantly, we fail a lot. You heard up front that 60% of the tests we run fail. A lot of the experiences we try to build or try to deploy, we have rejected hypotheses, we have negative results, we get things dead wrong. This is a very small selection of some of the fails we've had along the way. There are many and voluminous. One important call out, though, is that these are things that go into our dump truck. We say we're trying to solve a problem. In this case, we're trying to solve a problem down here with people entering the application. How do we make this easier and cleaner? Totally failed. People don't need easier and cleaner. They need the right information. We found that out by adding to our dump truck and understanding more about the real problem we were trying to address for consumers. This is a really critical part because everyone is going to fail a lot. You're going to fail a lot in trying to deliver better digital experiences. We fail all the time. The critical difference is how much you can take away from that failure as learnings. This is actually a snapshot from a report called the Experimentation Benchmark that was recently released by Sam Barber and the Impossible Premise. And you can see this slide we've grabbed from it says that there's a big problem, even in brands that are running experimentation practices where they don't value failure. And in fact, you can see from these stats, 42% of the respondents, remember this is enterprise brands who already have experimentation teams, don't value failure or use data to evaluate it. So this is a huge differentiator. It sucks to fail. I hate it every time. But if you take that and put it in your dump truck, you can build a much better experience down the way. So this is how you can be consistent. Not get roadblocks, but understand your roadblocks. What are the ones that you can shake a little bit and get some movement on? What are the ones that aren't going anywhere soon? And understand how you can move through those roadblocks with all the tools at your disposal. People will often say, like, look, we deliver one thing. Like, I am a loyalty manager, I'm sending emails, that's my main bag. Reach around you for the different tools that you might have that you're underutilizing, because they can help you get around roadblocks in ways you might not have thought about before. The last part is that failure is necessary. If you don't value it, you won't build a dump truck, you won't be able to solve the big problems. Showed you the impact, 2.5 mil in profit. We showed you the experiences. We talked about the how. Let's share with you the actual problem that we're dealing with. Bated breath. The problem is CSU faces a persistent challenge. That persistent challenge is multifaceted. Ad spend for marketing has been static. This is a similar story for a lot of brands. The product costs as much as a car and requires 3 years of your life. This is not a pair of sweats you're buying. Selling a uni course is a super long journey, and a degree, for that reason, is not an impulse purchase. So there's a lot of needs we need to satisfy on these customer journeys. So for us, when we say digital experience is insight and consistency, it's these two things together that create momentum. Momentum is what's going to deliver better value. It's what's going to move you past the failure you will inevitably counter. And it's going to be the momentum that guides you to deeper and richer digital experiences that really move the needle. So you told us, when it came to insight, that your biggest barriers were capacity and resourcing, access to the right data, and that our findings are all separate and disconnected without focus. I believe you. I believe you. What I would posit to you, though, is that for some of the folks that are saying capacity and resourcing, I would gently push you back and say it might be a little bit more of this last one. So my recommendation to you to take away is focus on problems for insight. Don't work longer and harder to create insight. Focus on bundling them to problems, especially the really, really hard problems that people have thrown their hands up often at. Use a mix of data to fill gaps in this knowledge. Collate your findings by problem. Create a folder in your file structure that says problems. Add problems in there. Dump files that you found. This is how you start thinking about the problem first instead of just taking an insight from a deck or finding something in Contentsquare. And fill your dump truck to solve persistent problems. You also told us how you're being stopped from delivering more. The biggest thing is stakeholder alignment. Now, we already shared that that takes a long time and is ever present. So good luck, everybody. I know you'll do great. There's other stuff as well, developer backlogs, approvals, archaic processes, and capacity. The biggest thing that we want you to take away from today is that you need to be flexible with failure. Understand you will get blocked. You will 100% get blocked. How are you going to move around that blocker? You're focusing on a problem. How do you address that by moving past the blocker, applying a different solution, trying a different solution, expecting failure, and then taking the learning anyway? Failure is a constant. Embrace what it's going to tell you. And consistent delivery means pivoting a lot when you hit the wall. There isn't a panacea in digital experience. And we're not gatekeeping. All right? The things that we're talking about now, these methods, they're changes in the way you practice. They're not new tooling. They're not brand new processes. It's not transformation. And it's for anyone that wants better results. Our strong opinion, given that the teams we're working with are really small already, is that these recommendations work for teams of any size in any industry. Focus on problems, build up evidence for them, and be adaptable in your delivery. We've been Evan Rollins, that's me, and Vaughn, thank you, sir. Your time is appreciated. We very much hope that Vaughn is going to be getting better. You can also visit this board at any time. It is open to public. If you get this QR code, you can jump in right now and have a browse around. I'll see your cursor here. We can all see each other exploring. And I welcome any questions if you want to drop them into Slido as well. There's our questions thing. Thank you so much. Cool.
You're going to have a Q&A, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have a Q&A first. Do we have any questions in the Slido?
I don't see one, but...
Do we need to flash out the screen for the Slido first? And then you guys can put in some questions in there. This is the time that you can ask Evan anything.
How come you made Vaughn sick?
Sorry? I think they want to, you know?
Cool. If you have a question that I can't see because of an app problem, then just shout it out too. That's totally fine.
Any questions from the floor that you want to, just put your hand up and, over there.
Full stakeholder alignment for one day, heaven forbid. What would you prioritize? The biggest thing that I think is missing when you're trying to get things like approvals or adoption from other teams is a lack of understanding or appreciation of the rigor that you're bringing to the table. I think a lot of that comes from confusion about what this is going to mean for me. We often get legal and compliance teams saying like, well, whatever you're faffing around on the website front end, like they're worried about what could happen up there. So most important thing that I would do if I had everyone in a room for one day is I would go through how we deliver something end to end. I'd use an example. I'd say, this is all the stuff that we do. This is how we build something. This is how we QA it. This is how we validate it. This is how we look at results. And then if we still had time, I hope we would, then I'd get them to do it with us. I'd say like, hey, here's some information, here's some data. Can you help us come up with ideas? Like, let's do this live so you can see how the sausage is made. And I think that demystification of the process is often what helps a lot in people understanding then when you come to them later. You say, I've got something, I need your help. They don't really have to second guess. They're ready to engage. Did that answer your question? Thumbs up, thank you.
Lovely, we got a thumbs up from her. Any other questions from the floor? We'll take one or two. Oh, you have something over there?
Yeah, I've got some now coming in. Thank you, Thana. So is there any way... There is a question about a mustache.
Can you answer that one?
How do I grow such a magnificent mustache? Look, your judgments are yours. I withhold my own. So just luck of the draw. There was one question, is there any way to do experiments without pricey tools like Optimizely? Short answer is, we're partners with Optimizely, so leave the room if you're with Optimizely, so I can answer this appropriately. The short answer is there's a lot of tools in this space that are at varying price points. Every tool that offers A/B testing, especially when it's just client-side A/B testing, which is on the website front end, they put a JavaScript tag and they say, if you fall into this test, apply this JavaScript. It's that simple. So there's a lot of different tools that at that core do the same thing. If you want best in class, you should talk to the guys at Optimizely. If you think we don't have the resources for that, there's a lot of other tools you can explore to dip your toe in the water, and once you start seeing value, you start seeing the return, and you start sharing that with your other stakeholders to get them a bit excited as well, then you'd be able to think about how do I mature my practice or build it up a bit more. You can come see myself or my business partner Greg at our booth if you want to talk in more details about that, just so I don't betray our partners too much on this stage. There's also some great questions. What kind of education was needed internally? How long did you get for CSU to get on board the journey? Great question. And I don't have all the answers because I'm not Vaughn, but I'll do my best impression. The most important thing that I think we started with to bring them in was, like I said before, focusing on our process. A lot of people think that the marketing team is doing ads, they're sending emails, and they're messing with our faculty's connection to students. This is very much a university world. And so by being really clear around the role that we see these different platforms and surfaces play in the journey. So what's the role of the website for a student journey? Hearing what they have to say, and then giving our opinion and showing how we think about that was probably the most impactful change that we made. But the secondary one was getting them involved, just like I said. And so having other teams across the uni start giving us ideas for what they want to test, at that point, we knew that we'd crossed a threshold. We were like, great, we're in. If they want to be involved and they want to offer test ideas, they want to improve the experience as well, then we'll be looking good. There's one great question here. What's one experiment you were sure would work that didn't? Short answer is, we're pretty sure they're all going to work when we launch them, which is, you're trying hard to do stuff. This is the same as product managers when you release a new feature. You're like, this one's going to be hot. I just know it. Yeah. And then you get 20 users over 3 months, right? And it's a bit of a flop. We do think that a lot of the tests we're going to run are going to work. There's one I showed earlier as one of the fails around an application start. To just quickly dive into it, people have to fill out a very short kind of form before they can start the application process. And we thought, oh, what an annoying piece of friction this form is. It'd be great if we could make it smoother and simpler. And so we tried changing the questions. We tried giving some support links along there. We tried making the UI a bit nicer. Didn't do anything. Just a total flop. So, lesson learned. Lesson learned.
I think we'll do one last question.
Okay.
Which is a really, really good one. Not about your mustache this time, though.
How much time do you spend trying to understand why an experiment has failed? This is an awesome question, and the answer is the exact same amount of time that we spend to figure out why an experiment won. This whole approach to digital experience that we have is about systematization. Right? If we do the same thing again and again, we focus on creating insight, we focus on delivery, we will get to the good results. And so we have a really systematic way of analyzing every single test. If something went up, that's great. Why did it go up? What does this tell us about customers? Which dump truck do I put these findings in? And we do the exact same thing for understanding failure. To give you critical numbers, for a test analysis of a big test, we might spend 3 or 4 hours analyzing it, but that is not make or break. That's a little bit of time in the grand scheme of things. And that feeds into our next deliveries, our next experiments. Thank you for your questions, everyone. Much appreciated.